We're going to bring you on, maybe sit back. So sit in the back today. Go ahead. I'll give you a few minutes, but I'm sure that we should start.
Welcome to the Unitarian Church in Fall River, where we think religious questions are important, but we want to work out our own answers, where we gather to share ideas and support one another. We gather this hour as people of faith, having sorrows and joys, and needs and gifts. We like that speaking of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and in celebration of the life we share together. Let's join our opening hymn number 346. Come sing a song.
song of love.
Could we please join in saying together our unison affirmation, number 471 in the back? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine, thus to be covenant with each other and with God. Are there announcements? David isn't here, but we know that the Course in Miracles is going to take place at 11 o'clock on Friday, 11 to about 12:15 or so, and that it's on Zoom. And to get the Zoom codes, you call him at, just a minute, 774-365-1945. Kit.
So I want to tell everybody, Lisa Kirk will be here next week. We haven't seen her. Lisa Kirk. We haven't seen her. Lisa Kirk.
Lisa Kirk.
We haven't seen her since June, so it would be really nice to catch up with her again. And you know, last week, Mara was in an accident on her way here. And I thought I checked in with everybody before we started, since we I did it, so
Can people hear Kit?
Can people, you can't hear me?
Well, people behind you might not be able to hear.
So Vera, I checked in with Vera this morning, and she said, thank you so much for all of your caring thoughts, that there was no serious injuries, thank goodness, but she is doing physical therapy for some upper back muscle spasm. The car had lots of damage, $8,000. So there's a lot of cars in front of her at the repair shop because everybody's waiting for parts. So she has no idea when she's going to be back in the four wheels. Hopefully she's renting a car. But she said again, thank you so much for your caring thoughts.
Any other announcements? Nancy might want to tell us about the.
About my town, I can tell you about my town. We don't have to play cowboy songs in church very often. I need to have this opportunity, but then I felt like I needed to bring this cow. It's a little $100 cow, but it was made by one of my long ago adult students. And he made a bunch of stuffed animals for a church fair that I attended. And this I was particularly drawn to because it was so bizarre looking. And the best thing it had at the time that I thought of it, my last has disappeared, was not only its strange look, but at the time it had a sticker on the side of it that said, "Cow." So you couldn't tell what it was. So I named her.
For invocation, I want to share a story by Barbara Brown Taylor. In mainstream Christian churches, the conventional wisdom is that Christianity is a brand new religion founded by Jesus to take the place of Judaism. And personally, I don't think that's true. I think Jesus himself wasn't trying to found a new religion. He was a Jew his whole life. Because of this attitude that is so prevalent in mainstream Christianity, lots of Christians don't know very much about Judaism because they don't think it's connected to their own religion. And Barbara Brown Taylor, she writes delightful books if you're interested in. She's a 70-year-old Episcopal priest who for the last 15 years or so has not practiced as a priest, but has been a teacher in a little private religious college in Northeast Georgia, Piedmont College, 2,500 students. And she teaches a course in the New Testament. And this is not an indoctrination course, it's an academic study of the New Testament. And she tells the story that in mid-October one year, so the course had been running for a month, one young man, big young man, I want to say redneck, but that's not polite, but you know, a rural kind of young man who drove a pickup truck and seemed to be asleep most of the time in the course and so on. In mid-October, in the middle of class, he rose his hand and said, wait a minute. Are you telling us that Jesus was a Jew? I don't have a prayer today, but I have what I think of as a meditation. This is one of these things that came over the internet, you know, but I liked it. I am thankful for the teenager who's not doing the dishes as she should, but is watching TV instead, because that means she's home and safe. I'm thankful for the taxes that I pay, because it means I have an income. I'm thankful for the mess I have to clean up after a party, because it means I've been surrounded by friends. I'm thankful for the clothes that fit a little too snugly, because it means I have enough to eat. I'm thankful for the lawn that needs raking, the windows that need washing, the gutters that need fixing, because it means I have a place to live. I'm thankful for all the complaining I hear about the government, because it means that we still have freedom of speech. I'm thankful for the parking spot I find at the far end of the lot, because it means I'm capable of walking and I had transportation today. I'm thankful for my huge heating bill, because it means I'm warm. I'm thankful for the lady behind me in church that sings off key, because it means I can hear and I can carry a tune. I'm thankful for the pile of laundry and ironing, because it means I have clothes to wear. And I'm thankful for the alarm that goes off early in the morning, because it means I'm alive. I'm alive. Indirectly, my sermon today is about that injunction that we love our enemies. It's in the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount is worth reading even if you don't read the Gospels. It's chapters 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew. The scholars say it existed before the Gospels were written. It was a collection of sayings of Jesus that was free-floating and circulating, and then Matthew decided to include it in his Gospel. It's not really a sermon. As a sermon, it would be terrible. It's just one little injunction after another. But it's a collection of sayings of Jesus. And this is the one, the paragraph that includes loving your enemies. This is Jesus talking. You have heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil, just as well as on the good, and he sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. Yippee-yi-yo-yi. Thank you. When I was studying to be a minister, I had to do an internship. I had to work half-time at a church for 2 years. This was the first parish in Weston, where I learned that rich people have problems too. Their problems usually don't have to do with a shortage of money, but they do have special problems because they have so much money. But many of their problems are the same that we all have. The minister there were two ministers who were my supervisors. It was a married couple, Harry and Judy Haler, Hoehler. I think they're both still alive, but they must be very old. They've moved to the Pacific Northwest now, living with a daughter, I think. I told Harry that, in my opinion, Jesus wasn't trying to start a new religion, that he was a Jew his whole life. He was trying to bring comfort to desperately poor people who were oppressed by the Roman occupation of their country, and he was trying to do it by drawing on the Jewish heritage that he shared with them. He certainly wasn't trying to start a new religion. And Harry said, well, I can't agree completely. He said, I agree that Jesus was certainly a Jewish teacher in the line of other Jewish teachers like Micah and Isaiah and so on. And like them, he put his own spin on traditional Jewish teaching. For instance, a phrase that's very distinctive with Jesus is the kingdom of God. He spoke about the kingdom of God. And if you look in the Jewish Bible, what Christians call the Old Testament, you won't find that phrase anywhere. You won't find that exact language, the kingdom of God. But you certainly find the idea, said Harry to me. But he said, there's one thing that Jesus said that I don't think you can even find the idea of in the Old Testament, and that's love your enemies. He said, I think that makes Jesus distinctive. And he may not have been trying to start a new religion, but it's not correct to say he was just another Jewish teacher. Well, I took this as a kind of personal challenge. So I started doing some research. Can I find the idea, love your enemies, in the Jewish Bible, in the Old Testament? And I think I can, and I'll tell you that. And the reason I'm telling you that is it also shed light for me on what that injunction, love your enemies, means. So I started looking. Love. The basic love commandment in the Jewish Bible is love your neighbor as yourself. All Jews knew that. Jesus himself quotes it in the Gospels. Someone asked him once, what's the greatest commandment? And he said, well, there are two. One is love God, and the other is love your neighbor as yourself. And those two, he said, summarize everything that's important in the Bible. So he certainly knew about that commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. So I started there, and that's Leviticus 19:18. Leviticus, the third book of the Bible, chapter 19, verse 18. That's where it's found. But that's not the whole verse. The verse says this. This is God talking, supposedly. The whole verse says, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, as a smart kid studying the Bible in seminary, that gave me a clue, because I knew from my courses in seminary, and to a certain extent from reading before I went to seminary, that in ancient times, people didn't read the Bible or the parts of the Bible. It was read to them. Most people couldn't read. They just heard it. And because they were just listening, and because when you're listening, if you miss something, you can't go back and reread it, it was very commonplace in the Jewish Bible for the same idea to be said twice. You say it, and then you say it again in different words, but you say it twice. And here's an example. I'm reading from the 5th Psalm. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Give heed to my sighing. It's saying, listen up, God, twice, right? In two different ways. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Give heed to my sighing. Pay attention, right? Said twice, different words. For you are not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil will not sojourn with you. It's basically the same idea, said twice. You are not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil will not sojourn with you. The boastful will not stand before your eyes. You hate all braggarts. The boastful will not stand before your eyes. You hate all braggarts, those who brag. It's the same idea, said twice. Well, this is a clue then about this love command. The love command is in two parts. And we should assume that the two parts, I think this is valid, that the two parts are trying to say the same thing, but in different words. And the second part says, well, the whole thing says, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you should love your neighbor as yourself. That last part, that second part, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, is the same as the first part, but in different words. And the first part says, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people. Your people and neighbor correspond. And I think therefore love and you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge should be taken to mean the same thing. So that's what love means in this love commandment. It doesn't mean like. It certainly doesn't mean be turned on by, or it means don't take vengeance or bear a grudge. That's what it means, I think. So then I started looking through the Jewish Bible for passages about enemies. And of course, there are lots of accounts of battles and things, so there are tons of accounts. But I was looking for some kind of principle about enemies and how enemies in general should be treated. And I found it in a wonderful place. There's a thing in the book of Exodus that biblical scholars call the covenant code. The covenant code is a long list of very particular laws. It's a very old list of particular laws. It's older than the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments seem to be general principles that were extracted from these particular laws. The Ten Commandments are intended to be a kind of summary of these particular laws. But this list of particular laws is older than the Ten Commandments. This is one of the oldest parts of the Bible. It goes back to when the Jewish people were just living in little farm villages on hilltops in central Palestine. And this is the only one of the particular laws that mentions your enemy. In fact, it's the only general injunction about enemies I've ever found in the Jewish Bible. And it's Exodus 23, verse 4. For those of you who have a Bible on your night table, you could look it up. It's Exodus 23, verse 4. Here it is. When you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey going astray, you shall bring it back. When you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey going astray, you shall bring it back. That is, you should chase it down and bring it back to your enemy's farm and put it in the corral or tie it up or whatever is appropriate. When you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey going astray, you shall bring it back. In other words, you should pass up the opportunity to get back at this SOB, right? It'd be the easiest thing. You would bring the wandering animal of any other person back. You just do that for anybody. But this is a great opportunity for vengeance, on your enemy. You see his ox or donkey going astray, and you could just let it go. But this says, nah, no, you shall bring it back. You shall pass up. In other words, you shall not take vengeance. It's the same thing as the first part of the love command. This is not taking vengeance or bearing a grudge. So, what does love your enemy means? It means not taking vengeance or bearing a grudge. It means treating them like anybody else. Even though there may come times when you have the opportunity to take vengeance, to get back at them, you have to pass it up. And that's the whole meaning, I think, of love your enemy. It comes down to that. Treat your enemy the way you treat anybody else. I think Jesus is a 100% Jewish figure. It's true, after his memory, there was a cult formed around him that took a lot of strange turns, very far from Judaism. He became a god or godlike who died for the sins of humanity and was raised on and all that stuff. And I understand, I respect Christianity, but Christianity, I don't think, can claim that Jesus is the founder. That's my objection. Christianity can't claim it was founded by Jesus. Christianity is not the religion of Jesus. Christianity is a new religion about Jesus. It's a religion about Jesus, not the religion of Jesus. I really appreciated, by the way, Harry almost agreed with me, but not entirely. You know, but that was all right, and he was my boss, so I couldn't push it too much. But you're not my boss, so I can push it a little harder. But what I appreciated this experience because I feel I've come to an understanding of what that injunction, love your enemies, means, and it means we're not being asked to feel something that it's impossible to feel. We're being asked to do something which is possible, even though it's difficult. It's difficult to pass up opportunities for vengeance on our enemies. But it's possible. We're being asked to do something that's possible, that's difficult, but we realize we should do. We're not being asked to feel something impossible, but to do something that's difficult. And now, we won't pass the plate, but we ask you to come up and pass something into the plate to support this congregation and its work. Time for sharing joys and concerns. If there's something on your mind or in your heart that you'd be willing to share. One thing I know is that Susan DeJong, who started coming with us, she lost her father. She's been away because she was staying with her father and mother, and and it's in some way helping with the care of her father, but he died. She sent a note to Eric, and Eric sent a really graceful thank you response to her. So when you see her, she's just lost her father. And we've heard about Vera. Anything else?
And she took over one of the rooms. She stood the wallpapers and the walls, painted the walls, made the walls room. Moved in and said to me, I'm doing your bedroom and that's your Christmas gift. I want to do the same thing again. I was not unhappy. I was really surprised to happy. Project. Really nice. Which one? Sorry, the others, that it was, and she was looking at her mom, and landlord started giving her, you can't have anybody here unless you lost my permission. Like, I don't know, it's legal. It's not. You can't do that. And my daughter was saying to her, this is done, you'll have to put on and you let alone. So she said, I think it's time to move, can I move back to your house? So it's okay, she can say it's money away and I'm going. But she said she's doing the house. I'm so excited. But she told me it's with the other room after the holidays. It was good I lived for teenage years.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, yeah. Things you grow up or change.
Stephen had been in the hospital with his little stroke problem again, but he had all kinds of tests done, and nothing really conclusive came back from all the testing. They implanted a little heart group monitor that goes to an app on his phone and also to his doctor's office. But he came home from the hospital on Tuesday, so he'll go back to work tomorrow and feels fine. You know, it's just it was really nice.
Who is this?
Our son, Stephen.
Oh.
You know, because he had a few mini strokes about 6 years ago and hasn't been fine, and it apparently affects his vision. So they checked him out at the hospital he was in. It was the same one as before, and he was in a stroke unit, so he got excellent care. He has a good support system down there, so he's in good hands.
Last time I was there, we had a minister from India who was presiding, and coincidentally, there was a young man, 54 years old, I believe, merchant in the community that was a victim of a armed robbery going bad, and at that time, they were in search of whoever perpetrated a crime. This week, that individual alleged perpetrator of this crime was captured. He's a squatter in an apartment not far from here. And I saw a newscast that indicated that he told his girlfriend that yes, he did. He said it was an accident. He said that the rifle jammed up or something, because that was just a televised newscast. But at least an individual who allegedly committed this crime is captured, and it does bring back the 54-year-old father of three.
else? Let's remember that we all have lots of things in our hearts that we haven't shared. Could we join in our closing hymn number 105, From Age to Age? Instead of my usual closing by Theodore Parker, I'd like to substitute, if I can remember, a biblically based one, which even if you're a humanist, if you listen carefully, will be okay. Let's see if I remember it. And now in our goings and in our comings, may the light of God shine upon us and out from within us, and be gracious unto us and give us peace. For this is the day we are given. In it, let us rejoice and be glad. Amen.
Okay, I'll go pull on our boots and our spurs for this last one here. We're going to keep the cowboy theme going here. This was Ghost Riders in the Sky. It actually was written in 1949 by a guy, Stan Jones. I'd never heard of him before, but grew up in, I think, Arizona or whatever, out in the cattle country. What the song's kind of referring to is sort of the big cloud formations you see out west, these huge clouds, and the Indians, and he said as a little kid looking up at these clouds, you could see people, you could see cows, you could see horse, you could see all kinds of things rolling around. Riders in the sky. cowboy went riding out one dark and moonlit day. On a ridge he rested as he went along his way. Well, all at once a party heard a song, loud to the bright skies and the their brands were still on fire and their horns were black and shiny and their hot breath he could feel. A bolt of fear went through him as they thundered through the sky. For he saw the riders coming hard, heard one cry. Yippee-yi-yi, yippee-yi-yi-oh. The riders walked on by and one called his name. They want to save your soul from hell, arrive on our range. The cowboy, change your ways today, or we lost you. Trying to catch the devil's herd across these endless skies. Yippee-yi-hey, yippee-yi-oh. Ghost riders in the sky. Yippee-yi-hey, yippee-yi-oh. The sky.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I want to see that cow close up.
Me too.
To me,